Hi everyone, welcome to the Movie Section Show. I am Fariba, and yes, I am back after such a long time. I think I've been missing for about 2 weeks. There's just a simple answer for that, and that is just I have been super busy. For instance, not this Friday that passed, but the Friday before that, I had a graduation. And so because of that, my whole schedule just got really messed up. And because of that, I had to really, it was a pretty overwhelming last week, and I just didn't have the time to really do any videos. But now I'm finally getting back to the groove of things. I mean, my schedule's back to normal again, which now means that I can start doing videos again, which again, it is the most perfect time for me to be back because She-Hulk is going to be premiering later tonight. And so I thought maybe today we would do a bit of a pre-show, a bit of a pre-game for She-Hulk, because I believe it's been about 6 weeks since we last had a MCU project, the last being Thor Love and Thunder. And I know for a lot of us this hiatus was a pretty long one. I mean, who doesn't love Marvel, of course? This video, as part of kind of like a preview or pregame, we're just going to discuss some things about the show, kind of the expectations, what we already know, maybe some predictions, things that we might expect. So that's just some of the things that I'm going to be covering for this video, just to kind of give us a bit more amped up for the first episode that drops later today. So yeah, let's just get started. So yes, She-Hulk is going to be premiering later tonight around 2:50 here at Eastern time on Disney Plus. It's going to be definitely a different show compared to most of the MCU projects that we've had in general, actually. For one thing, because this is a legal drama, so this is going to be going more into just kind of the legal aspects of things, like courtrooms and all that sort of stuff, right? This is something that we've seen courtroom scenes before, but it isn't like the big picture of the series. But in this case, it's going to be the big picture, and we'll talk more about just kind of what the trailers have indicated in terms of that. But in addition to that, I think what makes this series even more original is that it is a comedy. I mean, yes, we did have Miss Marvel, which is also kind of a comedy because it was a coming of age series, but for this one, it just feels like more of a genuine type of comedy that you would just get from like any sort of TV show, right? And I mean, in terms of the fact that this is a legal drama as well, like when you think of legal drama and comedy, like you wouldn't really necessarily kind of see that as like a good mix. I mean, unless like I don't really watch a lot of comedy, so it's just not my wheelhouse for this, but just to see a series where we have a bit more of the legal aspect, but also the comedy for it, like it's definitely a nice change of pace, of course, because I mean, the MCU, right? We have the MCU where, yeah, we do have some, comedic characters and all that, but with so far, everything that's happened so far, it's been quite tragic, but also kind of really, not lightning, but there's just a lot of things going on in terms of scientific things, like the multiverse and the cosmic and all that sort of stuff, right? And it's just like we're finally having a show where it's just straight up pure comedy, right? And so that's something that I'm really super excited about with this series. I mean, for one thing, I love the fact that we have Tatiana Maslany portraying Jennifer Walters. I mean, I don't know if any of you are familiar with her work in Orphan Black, but she is absolutely amazing in that show. I mean, she was portraying like at least 10 different personalities, and each one was so different from the rest that they were all unique. And the funniest thing is that with all these characters, it was played by one actress, and that is Maslany. So when I first heard the fact that she was going to be taking on the role as She-Hulk, I just knew instantly that this is perfect, because she is the actor who knows how to nail all these types of personas, right? And I mean, just from watching the trailers themselves, I can already tell she's having a lot of fun playing Jennifer Walters. I mean, she is just graceful, not disgraceful, but graceful. She is hilarious. I mean, she is embodying the essence of Jennifer Walters, aka She-Hulk, and I just love everything about her so far, just from what we've seen in the trailers. I mean, for one part, the breaking the fourth wall. I mean, I love that reference. So yeah, I have a lot of great expectations for her. I mean, again, I feel like she's going to nail it. I'm just glad that she's going to be involved with the MCU moving forward. So that's just one thing I wanted to mention. But let's go more into some of the characters where we kind of know they're going to be the big players in this series, right? I mean, of course, this is about She-Hulk. We have Tatiana Maslany playing She-Hulk. She's going to be the big picture, right? She's going to be the end game of some sort in this series, right? She's going to be the journey that we're following, the hero's journey that we're following. But then we also have the side characters. And now, when we look at She-Hulk, I mean, from a first glance, you think that, well, She-Hulk is just going to be a whole different series, right? But that's actually not the case. When you look into just the trailers and just some of the actors who are in this series, you can tell that there's a lot of different connections of some of the things that happen in the MCU that are so directly, tied in with She-Hulk, that I feel like of all the MCU projects in Phase 4 so far, I think this is the one where I've really seen a lot more of the tie-ins, like even more than Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. And that's saying a lot, because that was related to WandaVision. But here it's like we have, for She-Hulk, the tie-ins are the Incredible Hulk, Shang-Chi, right? And even in a sense, Daredevil, the Netflix series Daredevil, and I will talk more about them in a second. So, but let's go dive into some of the more tie-ins, right? So, the Incredible Hulk, I feel like it's going to be the biggest tie-in into the She-Hulk. I feel like that's going to be the most important movie that we kind of need the general knowledge of to understand events of She-Hulk. Because of one thing, one character who we're going to be seeing for sure is Bruce Banner, aka the Hulk. As I think we've seen the Hulk origin story so many times. There's the TV series, there's the 2003 version by Ang Lee, then there's the first MCU one and the only one, of course, which is the Incredible Hulk, where we kind of see just how he's just a fugitive going on the run, and that's some of the things that we do have a bit more of the background of. Now, of course, this is a bit tricky because with the Incredible Hulk, there was a different actor at that time, and that is Edward Norton. Edward Norton had originally played Bruce Banner at that time, and then, of course, for those of you who may not know, there was a lot of disputes between the actor and the studio, and eventually he got nixed out of the character, and then came Mark Ruffalo, and since then he has been gracing the screen as Bruce Banner. I think, let's be honest, I feel like Ruffalo has been the better Hulk of all the ones that we've seen so far. I mean, he is very charismatic, he is very hilarious, but he also embodies more of the scientific aspects. Like, he can portray just more of the seriousness, but also the comedic aspects of him in a well manner. And I feel like, again, it's just nice to see him come back, although, again, we would love to see a more Hulk based series or a movie, whatever, right? But this might be the closest that we might get to it, although I believe there's something with some rumors, but we won't get into that. But it is nice to see that we're seeing a bit more of Bruce, kind of having a bit more of his story in a sense. But of course, that's not really his story, it's going to be his cousin's. But it's nice to see him be a bit more involved. I mean, he still is involved in the MCU, so there has to be a reason why not only is he in this series. I mean, in this series it makes sense because of his cousin, but also it's kind of like he has appeared in Shang-Chi. He appears to be very involved with the Avengers still, or I mean, I don't know if they're still the Avengers, because I mean, it's a bit tricky there, right? But he still seems to be a big player, so I wonder what's going to happen with Bruce Banner in this series. Like, I hope that it isn't just being reserved as a minor character, and I'll talk more about what I actually would anticipate in terms of that, as I mentioned the other characters. So going into some of the other characters, right, from the Incredible Hulk, not only do we have Bruce Banner coming back and having his story just be tied into She-Hulk, we also have the Abomination, or as some of you may know him as Emil Blonsky. So this is one where I can definitely say is where the tie-in is very, very direct, and that's just because, again, Emil Blonsky was a arch nemesis to the Hulk back in the 2008 film. That was the one and only time we've seen the Hulk have his own, where he's gone against his own personal nemesis, because after that it's just been him with the Avengers, or the Revengers in that case too. But here it's like we definitely see a bit more of the Hulk based stuff, right? And just to see the Abomination come back, it's like a really, really big part of it. Again, this is a character that we also saw come back in Shang-Chi as well, with the cage fight scene with Wong, if you don't remember that. I mean, again, like, just to see him come back, like, it just seems like there was going to be a connection. This is the direct connection to it. And we all know that this is, based on what we see in the trailer, is that Jennifer is probably going to be representing Emil Blonsky. As to why, I mean, it seems like he's good friends with Wong, but I don't know what's the end game really. I think the biggest question going into this series is, did he actually truly change from the guy that we saw back in the 2008 film, where he was really obsessed about trying to beat the Hulk, which I think this is kind of where I just want to, I'm like really curious to see what's going to happen, because if Emil Blonsky is coming back, or the Abomination, it's just kind of like, okay, so what does this mean? We have Bruce, we have Abomination. Does this mean that Emil Blonsky is going to be kind of the secret villain in a sense, or is he not going to be a secret villain? It's gonna be hard to say. And I know that in the MCU we've had cases where we've had pure villains before, like Loki, and then all of a sudden they have changed, they have grown, and they soon became more like anti-heroes, or just at least people who are a bit more sympathetic, right? And they've had some sort of redeeming factor to them. So I don't know if they're gonna go in that route, or if they're gonna deceive us in a way where it's like we think that he has changed, but he hasn't really. Because again, I feel like there's a lot of unanswered things that happen from the Incredible Hulk that I feel like would be tied directly into this series. But again, it's just more like speculation. Representing him despite the conflict of interest, again, there's just a lot of things where it's like, yes, this is a comedy series, but I just feel like I am a bit cautious about him, suspicious about him, just because it just seems odd that he is there. He seems like he has changed. To have the Abomination in this series, it's just I'm very aware of what's going to happen with him. Again, we have Titania, who is actually the antagonist, which we'll talk more about. I'm not too familiar with Titania, but we'll talk about what we've seen so far with her. But from the looks of it, it seems like Titania is the primary antagonist, but also I would not be too easy on the Abomination as well, just because of the fact that he is there. It just seems like there's something else going on, especially for it to be a 9-episode series. I feel like there's a lot more going on, so I'm very interested to see what's going to happen with the Emil Blonsky story arc. And one thing I'm actually wondering is if we're going to have another Hulk versus Abomination 2.0, just because, again, the fact that we do have Bruce, the fact that we do have Abomination, it just seems very coincidental that both characters are coming back. So that's something that I'm hoping, maybe expecting is going to happen, but we'll just see, right? Now, another character that we know is confirmed in the series is Wong, and I think at this point we can just agree that he's basically the new Nick Fury of the multiverse saga. He has literally, I think he's the only character who has appeared in multiple movies. I'm talking more than 3 movies, even if some of them are cameos, right? But he has appeared in more than 3 movies to kind of somehow be connected to these characters, and now he's appearing again in She-Hulk, which is only just phase 4, right? So he's definitely the new Nick Fury. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that he is the new Sorcerer Supreme, so he's a lot more of that knowledge. He has a bit more of a bigger role than something that, Doctor Strange has. Doctor Strange is now involved with Incursion stuff, and then with Clea, but here it's like we know that Wong is going to kind of be the key to kind of bring all the stories together. But that's what I'm getting the feeling of, so Wong is in the series, of course. Again, I think that he's going to be a connection to the Abomination. That's clearly obvious because of the whole cage fight scene in Shang-Chi, but it just seems from here that he's not just a thing that's just connecting from Shang-Chi to She-Hulk and then from the Incredible Hulk, right? I think that he's actually going to be a bigger role in the multiverse saga. As to what it is, I'm not sure. Maybe it might be because of the whole multiverse stuff. He does have that knowledge. He was in Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness. He's been working with Dr. Banner, where he does have the more scientific mind, whereas Wong has more of the mysticism, knowledge, and all that sort of stuff, right? So I'm very curious to see where that goes as well. And then, of course, the last character we do need to mention, that's going to be returning, is none other than the Daredevil, right? Or Matt Murdock. And I know I watched the Daredevil series during its original run on Netflix, played by, of course, Charlie Cox. Just to see him back, it's great. I remember back when Spider-Man No Way Home came out, and just to see the Devil of Hell's Kitchen just show up out of nowhere, it was just remarkable, right? Just to see him finally step foot into the MCU, incredible, right? And now, as we all know, he's going to have a much bigger role than we anticipated, right? Yes, he had the cameo in No Way Home. They didn't really go anywhere as much as we wanted to, but it's there, right? Here it sounds as if he's going to have a bigger role. I think one of the writers had mentioned that he's going to be featured prominently a bit more than we expect, so he might not just be a cameo but something more than that. So I hope that there is actually going to be an actual story where he does serve a purpose and not just there for the simple fact that it's a cameo or fan service, right? That's the last thing that we would want. We actually want something, substantial in this series to, progress the story arc. But then again, I'm just super excited to see the Daredevil. I mean, again, he will have his own MCU show next year, I believe in the spring, which is going to be called Daredevil Born Again. And I hope this series, I mean, if there's one thing I hope the She-Hulk series is going to do, is give us kind of an idea of how much of a Netflix series is canonical to the MCU, because that's been the big question since he appeared in No Way Home, right? Like, if he's in the MCU, how much of the Netflix stuff is going to translate into the MCU? And that's the big question going forward. And we still don't even have any answers to that. I mean, no one's giving us direct answers to that. I mean, yeah, Vincent D'Onofrio showed up as Kingpin and Hawkeye. But even in that one, we never really kind of got an idea of which version this is. I mean, is this a different universe, or is this the same universe, or are there just parts of the story that's going to be, canon? I mean, there's a lot of questions that we don't have, that haven't been answered in terms of the Daredevil stuff, because it's just so tricky, right? I mean, for one thing, again, it is Netflix who made the series, so it's like, now where does the rights go in terms of that, right? But then also the other big issue is that this needs it's a family-friendly content, right? And the things that happen in Netflix's series were definitely a bit more on the violent, sometimes in the graphic side. And I mean, one of the things I did love about Daredevil is that it was a very, very grounded story. I mean, Daredevil was not emotional. There was just a lot of questions to his morality that I feel like was a really, really great way to kind of show this conflict in terms of his, in terms of his personal conflicts. And it was just sucked just to see this kind of wash away just because of the fact that he's now officially in the MCU. So I wonder how, again, I don't know how they're going to address it, or if they're going to address it at all, but I do hope that that's something that they're going to do in this series, just because I think at this point we waited too long to really just kind of just wait there and sit for any answers. And even if Marvel Studios is going to keep their mouth shut about it, or just kind of be ambiguous about the answer, they will have to address it at some point. I mean, if they're not going to address it in She-Hulk, it definitely has to be addressed by Daredevil Born Again, because at that point it's like you kind of can't get away with not answering that question, right? So, but again, I'm very super excited to see Daredevil. I mean, he does have a new suit, so I don't know what that means again. I mean, does this mean that his stuff from the Netflix series don't matter anymore, or maybe it still does matter, or maybe, he decided to have a whole new look? Again, I have no idea to that. Again, I'm super curious to see how they're going to address this, but those are going to be the four main players, of course. The two, or not main players, but four side characters that we definitely know are going to be involved in the series in some ways, progressing Jennifer's origin story. But I hope also in the same time, with them being involved, that we still kind of keep the fact that the center of the spotlight is going to be Jennifer, right? So I hope that they still kind of balance that out. But yeah, no, I'm super excited to see how they try to kind of put this all together, right? So now let's kind of just go more into the expectations, right? So again, I kind of already gave a little bit of my expectations of like some of the more individual characters. Things I could anticipate are a possible Hulk versus Abomination 2.0 happening, just because I feel like there's a lot more going on with Emil Blonsky, aka the Abomination, than we really think. Again, I feel like there might be a lot more deception than there really is. One thing I feel like there could be a possibility of is Secretary Ross showing up, because as you all know, if this show is going to be very directly tied to the Incredible Hulk, then you must have the one guy who kind of pulled it all together, and that is, at that time, General Ross, who is now Secretary Ross, right? I mean, this is a guy who, even though showed up in the Incredible Hulk, just appeared out of nowhere again in Civil War, right? And he's the one who put in the Sokovia Accords. He's the one who proposed it. He's the one who's enacting it like crazy. I mean, he even tried to enact it during the Infinity War, when Thanos is literally trying to like wipe out half the universe. He's a very, very prominent character. I mean, he's still in the universe somehow. We saw him in Black Widow, right? I mean, he was literally hunting down Natasha Romanoff, and we don't know what happened behind the scenes that caused Romanoff to be, let go, but I don't know, maybe they might address that as well. There's no idea. I mean, Bruce did have a brief relationship with her, so who knows? But I feel like General Ross will be the one character I feel like would be very important in this series, because if, for instance, if Jennifer is going to be representing Emil Blonsky, I'm assuming to kind of reduce his sentencing or just to show that, hey, this was kind of not his fault with what happened in Harlem, then there's going to be one person where this fault is going to be vaulted down to, and that is Secretary Ross, because Secretary Ross was the guy who recruited Emil Blonsky. He's the one who put it in the super soldier program, or the altered version of it, and then not just that, but pushed him to a point where he didn't really care for him, right? He just controlled the guy, and then once he just wasn't useful for him anymore, he kind of like dumped him in the trash. So that's another part that I'm very curious to see. I mean, I'm expecting Ross is going to be somebody who Jennifer might subpoena just to see his active role and how he, in a sense, affected Emil because of what was going on. So that's something that I'm expecting is going to happen again. And considering that we are going to see, I believe she represents the Superhuman Legal Division. I mean, I feel like that's just going to, if we're going to be talking about the Superhuman Legal Division, I feel like that's going to have a direct tie-in with the Sokovia Accord. So I feel like there's a chance that the Civil War might have some connection to this because of the whole Sokovia Accords and all that. So yeah, and I feel like, again, that goes into the whole law, the legal aspects of everything. So this is where I kind of think that Secretary Ross is going to be one potential cameo that we're going to see in this series. In terms of other characters, I can't really think of any more aside from Secretary Ross. I mean, I wish they hadn't shown, there's a part of me that I wish they hadn't shown the Daredevil reveal, just because that would have been such a cool revelation had we seen it in the actual series, but it's okay. It's been done, so I'm going to assume maybe there's going to be something big going on. Who knows? I can't really say anything for sure, but I expect a lot of things to happen, so that's just that. In terms of everything else, those are some of the expectations I have of things. I think some of the predictions I just mentioned. I'm still not, so in terms of Titania, of course, we know that she's going to be the arch nemesis to Jennifer Walters. I don't know much of who she is because I'm not familiar with her character arc, because I've never really read She-Hulk's comics that much, but I just know that Titania is going to be a big antagonist, who's going to be played by Jamila Jamil from The Good Place, so just a little heads up there. I'm very curious to see how prominent she's going to be. I wonder how her villainous arc is going to go. Again, I don't know much about her, but I believe in the comics, her powers, were enacted because of Doctor Doom. So I wonder if that's a reference to if we're going to be getting any references to Doctor Doom in that case. Because then, if that's the case, then maybe this series could be a direct reference to Fantastic Four. Which, if that's the case, then holy crap, what a way to do it. Does that mean that we're going to get the Fantastic Four? I don't know. That's going to be really, I feel like the whole Fantastic Four thing might be a bit far-fetched, just because I don't even think that they had ever confirmed the casting for it, unless John Krasinski just decided, I'll play Mr. Fantastic, aka Reed Richards or whatever. I don't know. It's a possibility. Who knows? That could be another possible cameo coming up. Who knows, right? If they're gonna be a bit more comic accurate in terms of Titania. Because again, from what I'm aware of, she is associated with Doctor Doom. So, and that could be a way to really tie into Fantastic Four, perhaps. But who knows about that, right? But yeah, other than that, we just really see a very outgoing Jennifer Walters who just wants to live a normal life, right? And I think even in the trailers, they even indicate how she just doesn't want to be known as a hero. She just wants to be somebody who wants to, be a lawyer, and just accept her persona as She-Hulk, but also just, do what she wants to do and not just be the superhero that everyone expects her to be, right? And again, I hope that there's going to be a lot of great cousin bonding, because that's just something that I feel like it's going to be the highlight of the series. I already love the chemistry between Mark Ruffalo and Maslany already in the series. They're just, again, cousins bonding, it's just already phenomenal. I'm already loving it. I already love how humorous the Hulk is, and just, doing his experiments with his cousin. There's a lot of things going on. I feel like there's just a lot of great things going on into this series that I feel like perhaps we're finally gonna have a good Disney Plus series for Marvel that isn't just WandaVision, because I know that there has been a lot of letdown in terms of the Marvel Disney Plus shows. I mean, Loki was a bit of a letdown in this finale. Hawkeye was alright, but like it was really rushed. Moon Knight, I mean, I feel like there was a lot of things going on, a lot of great things that were going on, but I just, again, another situation where the ending just kind of was a bit too fast. It just happened too sudden. Hopefully, with this being a 9 episode series, there might be a bit more of a better pacing. We finally get to see more of Jennifer Walters, like her story kind of shining through, and that to execute it properly. But yeah, that's just one of the things that I hope will happen in the show. Again, this is going to be a 9 week journey we're going to have for this series. So, and I believe it will conclude on October 13th. So we have a long journey ahead of us. So yeah, I'm super excited to start doing my reaction videos again, and that too for She-Hulk. I will be dropping it tomorrow morning as soon as I can. I mean, it's going to be 30-minute episodes, so that means that it's not going to take too long, hopefully, to make the edits and everything like that and have it for you. But yeah, let me know, what do you think? What are you excited about She-Hulk? Are you going to watch it? What are your expectations? What are your theories? What are you most excited about? And what are things that you hope that the series will address in terms of some of the more ambiguous things happening in the universe? Let me know in the comments down below, and make sure to like and subscribe. And I hope to see you all tomorrow.